Let's go to game 2.
Game number 2. Talk about dominant.
Yeah.
49ers, 37-20 winners over the Packers. It was 27-0 at halftime. They threw the ball 8 times. Jimmy Garoppolo was 6 of 8. He did have a quarterback rating of 104. So very impressive quarterback
Very impressive,
rating.
right.
For 77
He's
yards.
He's 1-0 versus Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs.
Jimmy G threw one pass more than 10 yards down the field.
Yeah.
Just one. We're talking 10 yards.
Right, on the first drive,
field.
he threw it to Deebo Samuel, I believe, on an in-cut for like maybe 15
Only
yards in the air. Right.
Didn't throw a pass the entire third quarter, and they didn't need to. And you've talked about it many times in this podcast. The run design that Kyle Shanahan has employed with this team is just creative. It is misdirection, and it is with any running back at any time. We've seen Matt Breida go off. We've seen Tevin Coleman, who went off in this game with a shoulder injury. He's gone off just last week, and then here it was 220 yards, 4 touchdowns for Raheem Mostert. I think that's the headline of the game, is that this is a running attack that playoff-wise, playoff football-wise, one of the best football's ever seen.
No, one of the best. You're right, it is. I mean, whether it's the physicality up front, the creativity by Shanahan, the versatility in the run game. A lot of the times you see a team who's really good at running the ball, you go, ooh, they're good at pulling guards, or, ooh, they're a good zone blocking team. Not with Shanahan and the 49ers. You can't peg them for one or the other. They got answers for any defense you run. They have the right scheme to run it, and they're well coached, and they're talented, and that's why they dominate the line of scrimmage. I mean, they dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I mean, that's where it starts. And then, hey, we've talked about it. Again, kryptonite. The things that we worried about with the Packers all year all showed up in the biggest moment, because they played the team that was able to expose that. And, what did we talk about all year with the Packers defense? Not big enough in the middle of their defense. Yeah. Not deep enough either. So they're compromised because they know that, and they go, we're outmatched. So they're trying to play the bear front and crowd people in the middle of the defense. Let's try to stop the Shanahan run game. Shanahan was like, okay, fine. If you want to put all those guys in between the tackles, that's great. I'll just have a few guys blocked down, and we'll mash you all in there, and we'll throw toss sweeps and get on the edge and do things like that all game long.
It's curious they didn't stack the box, though. I was looking at those numbers. I try to keep an eye on those. So eight or more in the box when Raheem Mostert was on the field. 14% of the time. Ooh. That's not a high percentage. I mean, Derrick Henry, in that game, the Chiefs stacked the box 37% of the time against him.
Right.
You figure that for a team that throws the ball 8 times in a game, you're going to see more heavy fronts, 8-man fronts.
Well,
I think did not do that.
No, they didn't get like safeties deep down in there because they're worried about the play action game. But what they did do was basically play 5 across the line for a lot of plays. Like I said, they wanted to cover the 2 guards, the nose tackle. Yeah. They had the 2 Smith guys on the edge. So you got 5 there. Then, a lot of the times it was either 1 or 2 middle linebackers in there that would only give them 7. You're right about that. But it just didn't matter. 1, they physically can't hold up to the San Francisco 49ers running attack. And then 2, they just don't, because of that, they don't have enough answers to stop the other things Shanahan does in the running game. And Shanahan's just brilliant. I mean, we need to really let's go to it, the diagram of the first touchdown.
Of Raheem Mostert?
Yes.
Can we take a look at his career journey before we... Oh, there is the diagram. Oh, there's the diagram. We'll do the diagram here first. And then because his story is, you might have already been familiar with it because people have been talking about it the last 8 hours now. But here's the diagram. This is of the, which one is this?
This is the touchdown to put them up 7-0 on 3rd and 8.
36-yard touchdown on 3rd and 8. You got a pulling guard. You got George Kittle taking out a corner just by running an out route on this play.
It's it's a lot of things, right? I mean, it's man-to-man. There's a bunch to the right, as you see in the diagram. Okay, let's start it from the top here so we can talk it through a little bit. But once again, like Shanahan, it's 3rd and 8. Who's expecting an inside run, guard trap type of play? Nobody. But because he's so creative and he's fearless and he has a feel for what they're going to line up in, so he goes, I know what they're going to do here. And on this play, it was 5 across, but they're in like a nickel defense. Zadarius Smith is over this center, basically, because he's blitzing. They're thinking it's 3rd and 8. We want to get a mismatch. We want to get our best pass rusher on the center, right, to get some pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, Shanahan was ready for that. And the brilliance of the play is he has the right guard, come out and block Kyle Fackrell, who's over Joe Staley. And they're so well coached that Joe Staley knows, this guy's coming. He lets him go. So basically, Kyle Fackrell is allowed to just go in the backfield because they know the guard's coming to knock him out. Now, outside of Fackrell, if you'll see on there, Preston Smith's outside of him. They don't even block him because they know he's so far outside that the guard who pulls and hits back roll is also going to get the way of Preston Smith, who's going upfield thinking pass rush too, right?
Yep.
So one guy blocks two, and now Joe Staley, who I said just gave the okie doke to Kyle Fackrell, he's up on the second level, just waiting for the linebacker to come, and he cuts him off. And then there's Raheem Mostert, and there's nobody there to even touch him because of the play call and the perfection in which it was coached. Raheem Mostert does not get touched on a 30-something-yard touchdown in the NFC Championship game.
The only guy who maybe had a chance there late was the corner, like I mentioned, Chandon Sullivan.
Yeah, right.
But he was so preoccupied with George Kittle running an out route. He didn't even have his eyes in the backfield.
That's what happens in man-to-man, right.
Mostert runs for 36 yards there, which was the fastest run by any ball carrier this week in the NFL.
Is that right?
Faster than Tyreek from Kansas City. It was 21.9 miles an hour. It was actually half a mile per hour faster than Tyreek on that 8-yard touchdown run. So, I mean, it's not a mystery why Mostert has shown up like this, because he's working with a great coach with a good offensive line, good play design, and he's also really fast, but we haven't seen it before. I think I mentioned that his career journey has been cut by several teams: Eagles, Dolphins, Ravens, Jets, Browns, Bears, and now he's with the 49ers. He said the one that puzzled him the most was when he was cut by the Jets, and they didn't even give him a reason why.
I thought he was on the Colts at one time too, if I remember right, but maybe I'm wrong.
Practice squad?
Maybe it was. Maybe it was just a practice squad. Either way, yes, he's a guy that has popped to me through the years.
He's always had speed, obviously.
Yeah, and I've had on prior podcasts been like, man, this Mostert guy's interesting. A few different times. But yeah, never get stuck in the politics of football. But just like we see with a lot of people, Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Steelers, he's a bust with one team and then goes to the other team and he's an all-pro safety.
Yeah.
Well, he got with the right scheme, like you just talked about, and the right coach who had a scheme that is, what do I want to say, that accentuates his running style. And Shanahan, we've talked about this. This is why the 49ers are so talented right now. One, they got size, they got physicality, but Shanahan has an eye for guys who have no hesitation in their game. And I mean that with linebackers where they see a hole, they just run through it. They're like Bobby Boucher. Yeah. What? And hit them. They don't care. There's no like, oh, wait, this guy's really big. Let me figure out how I want to tackle him. He wants guys that just go. Like, screw you, I'm running through the wall. And that's the same thing for his running backs. He wants to run his schemes, and he goes, I'm going to design something, and when you see that hole, I want you to hit that hole and run like a bat out of hell, and I don't care who's there. And you might get hit like a Mack truck, but hey, we're giving you a hole. You got to make something happen. And he just got the great eye for that kind of talent at the running back position, and Mostert's taking advantage of it.
He's finally taking advantage. He's had that winding career. And then when you take a look at the Wikipedia page, this is a Wikipedia page of Green Bay.
Yep.
You notice the government listed there on this for our YouTube audience. The king of Green Bay is now Raheem Mostert.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
Wow, he's been anointed, huh?
He's been anointed king, and it actually is true because everything on Wikipedia I have found is very true.
Oh, very true, yeah.
People say that all the time. They go, oh, you can't believe everything on Wikipedia. Wikipedia knows a lot.
It does know a lot.
Maybe not the king of Green Bay right now. That might be inaccurate. That's probably been changed by now.
Kind of inaccurate, but somebody did that.
It's cool to see what he's done. I mean, he had that 22-yard touchdown run in the third quarter, and I was looking at that one, and that was another 5-man front with the two linebackers running up.
Right.
Joe Staley locked up, Fackrell there. Mostert got outside, if you remembered on that play.
Yes.
Good block downfield by Deebo Samuel. And another part of that play, too, and in this whole running scheme, it's like Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
Right? There are the corner, it was Will Redmond.
Right.
Was reading Kyle Juszczyk, and Kyle went inside.
Right.
And so Will Redmond goes inside.
Which I think he's supposed to. I do think he's supposed to. I think Kyle Fackrell, the linebacker on the edge, shouldn't let anybody
keep contained.
He's supposed to keep contained, but he saw Juszczyk go inside too, and I think he thought, ooh, the run's going to go in there, and he committed a little, and then he got sealed off, and Mostert jumped outside and, of course, turned the corner for a touchdown.
So it's just a dynamic running attack for this 49ers offense, and they don't need the passing attack, but they do have other playmakers, and I think Deebo Samuel, I've mentioned a couple times here, he had 2 catches for 46 yards, 2 rushes for 43 yards. He's not he doesn't have the speed of a Tyreek Hill, but I feel like they're very similar, and they can be used in the pass game and the running game.
Definitely.
And they're just speed options that that are weapons for really creative offensive minds.
Yeah, and it's like when they have the ball in their hand, they just look like they don't lose speed, right? Yeah. I mean, usually guys with the ball in their hand lose speed, and Samuel and Hill look like they get faster. And I think to your point with the comparison with Hill, too, it's the acceleration that jumps off. It's just like, oh, they give the ball to Deebo Samuel on a speed sweep or a toss reverse or whatever it may be, and he's at full speed within 2 steps. So it's like, right. Oh, he got the ball, and then it's like, whoa, he's at the second level already. And, he runs with no fear. He runs like a running back. He runs like just what we talked about what Kyle Shanahan wants. So therefore, then like safeties and corners are like, ooh, man, he's a load to deal with, and he breaks arm tackles and does everything like that. But the creativity, the versatility in the 49ers run game, the talent they have up front and at the running back position, that's the difference. And they played a team that just can't stack up there. The Packers this offseason, they got to get bigger up front. That is something they got to do. They're just got to get bigger and get deeper. Ahmed, there was points in the game where the Packers are getting run on, but because they're not deep on the defensive line, they're playing nickel and dime to give their defensive tackles a rest. So they're actually getting smaller as they're getting pounded into the ground because they don't have enough guys to rotate in like a Kansas City or a San Francisco. And kudos to Kyle Shanahan for not letting them off the hook with it. I think he saw it and he just like, the pass, we're gashing them in the run. And we're going to wear them out. And they don't have enough depth. And they're not super talented inside anyways. So let's keep it going. It's the strength of our football team. And he just kind of never let them off the hook in that part of that aspect of the game. And of course, they dominated it.
They threw to George Kittle one time.
Yeah.
1 catch, 19 yards. They didn't need to use him.
No.
And that might have been part of the game plan, too. Not to go to Kittle that much. But they didn't have to.
They were never forced to. And that's one thing that's going to be interesting about the 49ers. When they get forced to do that, is there enough there in their passing game? Can the Kansas City team, can the Chiefs be that team that go, okay, we can stalemate you a little in the run game. Now, do you have enough in the pass game to beat us, Jimmy Garoppolo and company? That'll be the big question in the Super Bowl, And then you flip it around, and the Packers defense, they want to play like the Titans do. They want to run the ball and control the ball that way, and then that opens up some play-action passes for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Okay, but none of that happened. They couldn't really get in the flow of the game,
He finished with 326 yards.
Yeah.
Rodgers. That came late.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously past halftime.
Right.
They didn't have any
Right.
points at halftime. Couple touchdowns. Did throw 2 interceptions. He had 3 fumbles.
Yes.
Just lost one of them.
Right.
2 of them were recovered by his offensive lineman, Billy Turner, which I always think is a bad thing for a lineman. You never want to be the guy recovering the football.
Yeah, because he was the guy that got beat. Right. And now he's watching, and he's going, oh, wait, my guy's hitting him. I better be ready for the ball coming out.
Good on you that you got the recovery.
No
but you
doubt.
should have just blocked the dude to begin with. But you were not impressed. I mean, it was good late. But at that point, the game was pretty much
over, right. The competitive part of the football game had already been determined. The 49ers were going to win the game. Yeah, I mean, you're right. We got a little glimmer of like 34-20. Oh, my gosh, can they make a stop?
Yeah.
And then maybe he can go down and score, and they kick an onside kick, and something crazy happened. Maybe. But it was like, man, everything was a lot of work. And, Green Bay, I think ultimately – without being able to run the ball, they're like Tennessee. They run out of options in the pass game. They don't do enough in the pass game. And they don't have enough talent in the pass game to scare you. There was never a moment where early in the game where I went, man, are they going to back the 49ers off with anything? Are they just going to let the 49ers just play downhill and fly around the field and never have to worry about anything? And, yeah, they did. And then added to that, Ahmed, you go down 7-0. Okay, you get the ball back. You go, you end up punting the ball. You let up a good return. The next drive starts at the 49-yard line. They get 15 yards. They get in field goal position. It's 10-0. Then you go 3 and out again, and your punter shanks the punt, and now the 49ers got the ball at the 37-yard line. I mean, this is a team that's on fire and running the ball, and you're giving them the ball at the 37-yard line? I mean, this just in, of course they're going to score.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a 6-play, 37-yard drive, all right? And then you're going, all right, here they are. They're down 17-0. Oh, great. Now they have to throw every play against the best pass-rushing defensive line in football. Good luck. And they're just not made to play like that either. And as great as Rodgers is, first off, he's not as great as he was 4 or 5 years ago, where maybe he could have made a few more plays. But there's just not enough help around him as a team. The scheme itself is not creative. The 49ers did nothing on defense. They did the same 2 defenses they always play. They played cover 3, Seattle, press bail, and they played some man-to-man.
Which you can do when you're physically
elite,
more talented than the other team.
Exactly right. And then they are. They are elite that way. And then you mess it up in the punt game and give them the short field and start to give them some momentum and everything like that on the road. Yeah, you got no chance. And they really just were overwhelmed altogether on both sides of the football. And, yeah, down 27-0. They finally got a score to make it 27-7. But the 49ers answered right back. I mean, there was never any doubt. And, yeah, you just felt like the 49ers were really in control of this game really from about the second series on.
I was trying to look at the schedule for the 49ers when they arrived.
Yeah.
I think you were one of the first people that said this team is for real.
Yeah.
I know they had the number 2 draft pick last year, but they didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo most of the year. And a lot of people thought that. They'd take the next step, but I don't think people thought they'd beat this dominant team. And
I did, though. You know that. I did. I'm going to say it.
You thought they were going to be dominant.
Well,
not totally. I'm going to call you out a little bit.
Call me out a little bit.
Because I do know there was one game.
Yeah.
It was the Monday night game, right, against Cleveland, the Browns.
Right. Early on.
You picked the Browns.
I did. I picked again. So that was about the time, goodbye
Week
you.
5.
I made the adjustment about right then, maybe a few weeks, 2 weeks later, where I said, 49ers are the best team in football. And then I went through a phase in like week 10, 12, 11, when they got to close to Baltimore and playing them. I went, I think Baltimore's a little bit better.
Yeah.
But the 49ers are still the best team in the NFC. So you're right. Early on, weeks 1 through 4, 5, I wasn't quite sure.
But I think that was the moment. I think that Browns game
really was about there.
People.
I know I said on PFT one day, I go, I'm not picking against the 49ers for the rest of the year. I said the 49ers are real. There's nothing about them that says fake or bullshit. And they're phenomenal on both sides of the ball.
They went to L.A., beat the Rams the next week.
Exactly.
To 5-0,
right.
And then it was on.
Then it was on. Yes.
Because at first it was like, okay, you got these wins against.
Yeah, it was Pittsburgh without Ben Roethlisberger. Right. It was, to your point, the Cleveland Browns, who were still a dumpster fire at that point. They played the Bengals and the Buccaneers. So we were like, I didn't know where they were. But they obviously are one of the best teams. And, man, my man Kyle Shanahan, first father-son duo to go to the Super Bowl, really special. And it's going to be a great matchup.
I mean, you've seen firsthand what he's gone through and the different stops that he's made. And there are people that say, it's like, oh, he's got a dad who was in it, and so he's got opportunities that other people maybe wouldn't have had.
Sure.
And experiences that other people wouldn't have.
Sure.
But you have to take those opportunities and experiences and grow with them and do things that you did not learn from your father, or you have to come up with new things. And Kyle, it appears, has been able to do that.
Definitely, and no doubt about it. I mean, if it was that easy, then why is he the first son to be coaching the Super Bowl like his dad did? It's not that easy. Yes, he got the opportunity to have the dad to make the call, to get him into the league and have that connection, right, to get him into the coaching cycle and all that. I was in Tampa when I remember John Gruden walking into the quarterback room right after my rookie year and being like, hey, Mike Shanahan just called me. He said, there's nobody I'd rather my son work for right now than me. And I said, okay, he got the job. So he came down as our quality control guy. And yes, from that point on and before that, I knew his goal was to be where he's at now. And I knew he would get very close to reaching that goal. He's obsessive, he's smart, he's got guts, he's got creativity, and really, I think if you look back at Kyle Shanahan's resume, I think people would be a lot more surprised with what he did. To your point, he was with the Texans and they had 2 top 5 offenses there, but people kind of gave Gary Kubiak the credit.
Sure.
And I know that didn't always sit well with Kyle as the competitor, because he wanted to be like, wait, I'm the offense coordinator, I'm calling the plays, and yet I'm still not getting it. He goes to the Washington Redskins and the same thing's going on, and they have some great years on offense. But people are like, oh, it's Mike Shanahan, right? Mike Shanahan's doing good. He goes to Cleveland, and people want to call him a dumpster fire because they weren't explosive that year, but still one of the better running teams in football. But they were a dumpster fire, and there was issues there. And then he went to Atlanta, of course, and proved his worth. And I think people finally started to see it, and they couldn't deny it anymore. They couldn't hate on him anymore. And it's amazing where he is.
I mean, it didn't end well with his final game with Atlanta, and that's still one of my favorite coaching quotes of all time, because when he was being introduced with the 49ers, it was fresh off the devastation of losing the Super Bowl and having that lead and blowing it. And there's some questionable play calls, whether you try to just run the clock out at that point, and they were throwing the ball. And they asked him, they go, in retrospect, would you go back and do anything different? He goes, most people say, no, I would do it the same way. He goes, no, obviously I know it didn't work, so I would do things differently. And I love that. He's just an honest guy, and you clearly see he connects with the players.
You see it, right? That's what I was going to say. He's real. I mean, he's more comfortable talking to the players in the locker room than he is on the podium talking to the media.
Yeah.
He's he's in his element. And to the last thing before we move on from that, again, that was wrong. what people did to Kyle Shanahan with the end of that game in Super Bowl down 20, when they were up 28-3 on the Patriots. That was wrong. Had nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan. Yes, would he like to do something differently? Certainly. But let me just say this. If the roles were reversed, all right, and it was the Patriots who blew a 28-3 lead and had suspect calls down the stretch, we wouldn't be blaming Josh McDaniels. We'd be going, what the is Bill Belichick thinking? What's he thinking? Like, what's the head coach doing over there? Dan Quinn wasn't calling the defense, and he's not calling the offense. What is he doing, eating popcorn? He was allowed to say, hey, Kyle, run the ball here. Hey, Kyle, I want to take time off the – he didn't do any of that. So Kyle coached the team the way he coached the team all year long. Yeah. I had an issue with that then. I still got an issue with it because, I feel like Atlanta kind of, let him, sail down that river. Like, here's the shit river. You go on it. We're going to sit here on the bank and wave goodbye to you as you go. Yep, Kyle messed it all up. Bye, Kyle.
Yeah, and he says he would have done things differently, but that doesn't mean that he didn't make a valid decision in the first place, right? If you know the result and it doesn't work out, of course you're going to say, okay, if that didn't work out and I already know that information, I'm going to do something differently.
Yes, exactly.
But it doesn't mean that throwing the ball there because they think you're going to run, you may be able to catch him off guard.
No, and they played aggressive all year. They were the best offense we've
right.
seen in the history of football. So he was just doing what they always did. Was it right? No, okay, yeah, right. It should have worked out different. It could have, but he was doing what he had always done the whole year, and it's the head coach's job to manage those situations. If the head coach isn't managing those situations, then I don't know what he's doing if he's not calling plays, which Dan Quinn was not. So he kind of got off the hook there, and people would blame Shanahan, and that still bothers me, as you could tell.
Kyle has a chance to do it differently now.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 54, and give credit to Jed York, who gave the keys basically to Kyle Shanahan.
He did.
Who, when I was in the Bay Area, was not a popular guy.
Yeah.
Because things soured with Harbaugh. And people didn't like that because
things soured with Harbaugh? I've never heard Harbaugh and sour together.
You're not the biggest Harbaugh fan,
no,
for sure. But
definitely not.
But then moving on to Jim Tom
Go
Sula.
Ohio State.
Jim Tom Sula was not the best move after that.
No.
Chip Kelly didn't work out. And so it was a disaster there for 3-4 years running. And Jed York was able to give the keys over, make that move. And Kyle Shanahan now has got him back to the Super Bowl 54.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.